Community facilities districts, commonly known as CFDs, are really a fascinating financial creature available to local governments in California. Over the last 3 decades, they've proven to be a very flexible and useful tool. They can be used by cities, counties, school districts, and special districts to fund a wide range of services. These services might include libraries, parks, public safety, and other desired services. A CFD can also finance infrastructure, which might include water and sewer investments, roads and bridges, and even the acquisition of open space. A CFD is technically a special tax, which means it requires a supermajority or 2/3 of the registered voters to approve it. There is an instance where if there is unoccupied land, the landowners can vote in the special tax. CFDs were created by the California legislature back in 1982 by Henry Mello and Mike Roos. This legislation was introduced as somewhat of a reaction to the voter-approved property tax limitations that were created by Proposition 13 back in 1978. The CFD itself has proved so popular that similar legislation has been introduced over the years in Arizona, Hawaii, Texas, and other states. A key attribute of a CFD is really its flexibility. It can be used to pay for so many different desired services and finance virtually any type of infrastructure that a local agency manages. The method of charging the tax, how it is divvied up, if you will, is also flexible. The special tax formula, which is known as the rate and method of apportionment, or RMA, is not subject to all the strict principles of benefit assessment engineering, but rather just needs to be a reasonable formula based upon obtainable data factors.
A CFD can be proposed by virtually all forms of local government in California. This includes 482 cities and towns, 58 counties, and thousands of special districts, including sewer districts, water districts, and school districts. CFDs can also be used among public agencies where they're working together cooperatively to finance facilities together, utilizing a joint community facilities agreement. A CFD is a really flexible tool in many regards. It can fund a wide array of services. This includes, for example, police protection, fire protection and suppression, libraries, museums and cultural centers, parks and recreation, landscape maintenance, school maintenance, and even flood control and storm protection services. On the capital side, virtually any improvement or infrastructure can be financed with a CFD. This typically includes parks, schools, roads, utilities, and basic infrastructure. And in some cases, you can even use a CFD to finance seismic retrofitting, as well as abatement of hazardous materials.
I really love parks and open space. So this particular project where we used a CFD to acquire some land and put it into permanent open space with the trust in Marin County was a very satisfying project to work on. This was in the community of Novato in northern Marin. The community really wanted this to happen, so they approved the tax with a 95% yes vote, which we think is a record for a yes vote in the state.
Let's walk through the steps of a CFD formation. First, a CFD needs to be initiated. Next, local goals and policies must be adopted by the agency proposing the CFD, if they've not previously adopted them. These local goals and policies are essentially rules of the road that any CFD formed by that community must adhere to. Next, the rate and method of apportionment is developed. That document details how and at what rate the special tax is levied. Next, the CFD is formally proposed. A public hearing occurs, and if there's no majority protest, we go to the 5th step of adopting a resolution of formation. The 6th step is the all-important election. The 7th and last step for a bonded CFD is to issue any debt that might be part of the plan. Obviously, water is a critical resource in California. We worked for a couple of years with the Nevada Irrigation District and property owners there. There were many property owners there with failing wells, and they needed to be connected to a stable source of water. So ultimately, they voted to form a community facilities district to finance that water distribution system. That district had a couple of unique features in it. We allowed for property owners to prepay their special tax lien ahead of the levy going on the tax rolls, so that folks who did not want to incur a long-term obligation had the opportunity to prepay. In addition to that, we allowed for connection fees to be financed through the CFD. So we were able to assist those folks who didn't have cash to pay that obligation in order to finance that over the long term, and allowed for folks who joined the system later to have a mechanism to do so.
You may be wondering, what is the CFD law? The Mello-Roos Community Facilities Act was adopted by the California legislature back in 1982. It's now part of the California Government Code, starting with Section 53311. Certain charter cities can adopt the legislation and make minor edits to it for their needs.
Many CFDs are formed to fund services. However, debt can be a valuable tool. Municipal bonds, which are typically tax exempt for most local governmental projects, are commonly used and well accepted in the marketplace. In recent years, certain banks have been willing to lend longer term on CFD projects. Some high net worth individuals or institutions will also finance debt. There are also state agencies who will lend on applicable projects. Selling debt to investors is a complicated process. Ultimately, the land within the community's facilities district secures the debt on the property. An analysis is completed that includes several metrics to make sure that the amount of debt on the property is not too great. Sometimes other consultants will be brought in, such as appraisers or absorption consultants, especially where there's a large development project and the value of the land securing the debt is a huge key to its success.
There can be a number of parties involved when developing a new CFD. It really depends on the complexity and the size and various other factors. A simple CFD for services only might include a special tax consultant, which is our role, and local agency staff, as well as legal counsel and others. A fiscal impact analysis, or FIA, could be needed in some cases. For a more complex undertaking, a financial advisor, bond underwriter, bond and/or disclosure counsel, an appraiser, and an absorption consultant might be needed to analyze the many issues involved.
Once a CFD is formed and implemented, the ongoing annual administration, or care and feeding of the district, is essential. Most importantly, the CFD tax must be calculated annually and billed, typically by the county property tax collection process. While this seems simple, tracking the parcels is essential and often fraught with data issues and management challenges. It might be necessary to update development or occupancy status for certain parcels. Tracking and monitoring payment delinquencies is important. Various reporting obligations exist. Bond administration and reporting is needed. The list goes on. Having staff or outside consultants to track the parcels to ensure that all of these obligations are met is essential to the administration of a community facilities district. A fiscal impact analysis is often a worthwhile study to perform prior to a CFD formation, especially for increased or enhanced services. This analysis looks at the revenue generated from a development project and compares that to the cost of providing service to that development. In summary, CFDs are a robust tool for communities in California. They allow for funding of certain services, financing of infrastructure, or perhaps both. Done right, they can be an indispensable component of the overall public finance of an agency. CFDs can positively affect the community and benefit the quality of life for all who live there.